Hi everyone,
Okay.
thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have a great webinar with Sofia Marinakis, and her presentation will be about working on a character's pose in Clip Studio Paint. Before we begin the webinar, there are some housekeeping items that we'd like to go through. The webinar will be approximately 1 hour long. All attendees will be muted. There will be a Q&A session during the last 15 minutes of the webinar. Attendees can ask questions using the GoToWebinar question box right away. Due to time constraints, not all the questions will be answered. This webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be shared on social media and will be sent via email to all registrants and attendees. The panelists for this webinar are Mario Quiñones, myself, and Sofia Marinakis. For those of you who connect with us for the very first time or have never heard about Clip Studio Paint, Clip Studio Paint is your all-in-one solution for stunning, ready-to-publish illustrations, comics, manga, and animations. Learn more at clipstudio.net/and graphicsly.com. Also, we invite you to share your Instagram stories using our tags, #webinar, @SofiaMins_art, @graphicsly, @Wacom, and @ClipStudioOfficial. We'll be sharing your Instagram stories if you tag us. Sofia Marinakis, also known as Sofia Means Art, she's a content creator from Belgium with an intense passion for illustration and storytelling. Sofia has been drawing ever since she can remember, but when she got her first drawing tablet at the age of 14, everything changed. While studying 3D animation in college, Sofia started posting her art on TikTok, not knowing how fast and big she will grow. Ever since then, her plans for the future have broadened, and she's now in the process of creating her own webtoon. She hopes everyone is excited as her. So we are really excited as well. So I will leave you with Sofia and her presentation working on a character's pose in Clip Studio Paint. Thank you so much.
All right. Hi, can everyone see my screen? Okay. Hi there. Okay, so working on a character's pose in Clip Studio Paint. Let me just hide this for a second and then put it right there. Okay, where do we start? That's always the big question. Obviously, in Clip Studio Paint. Let's open up a new file. I have the illustration type of file ready to go. And since we're going to be working on poses, I'll use the horizontal version. All right. Now, for sketching poses in Clip Studio Paint, let me just start off with the brushes we can use. Here we have, hold on, let me just get a brush ready. For sketching, I would like to use the brushes that come with Clip Studio Paint. They have actually like pretty nice brushes. I like this one for sketching because it has like a really nice thin line, and then also when you like put pressure on it, it has like nice thickness. So it's the dry ink from the India ink set. This feels really like pencil-ish, and especially if you're making the change from traditional to digital, this will feel really familiar. So yeah, this definitely one of my favorites. But what's also really nice about Clip Studio Paint is that it works with ABR files. So if you have a brush pack from, let's say, Photoshop or any other online, if you download it and it comes in ABR, then you can actually import it into Clip Studio Paint. So if you were worrying about like, oh, I want to make the switch from one program to another, you can easily just get your brush pack from the other program and import it into here if it's ABR or like other files. So just saying that that works in case you wanted to know. All right. Now about sketching. Yeah. So the thing is, you can teach some parts of art, like the way you do stuff or the way you personally handle things. But when it comes to sketching, one thing you'll notice is that sketching, it takes practice. Um, what you want to do is practice a lot on anatomy and perspective, because that's one thing you really can't teach someone. It really just comes with like doing it a million times over. You want to have a 3D image in your head and then be able to, you know, twist it around and turn it and then put it on a piece of paper. What you essentially want to be able to do is to know how a body works, and then eventually just, like realize exactly what needs to be done for it to look like an actual body. And that genuinely just comes with time. So that's not something I can teach you, but I can give you, obviously, some tips on how to do it better. If someone ever teaches you how to draw something, like if they teach you how to draw a nose and they do like make an S shape and then add two little bows or something, then you're not learning how to draw. You're learning how to draw that specific drawing. Because drawing, to me, in my head at least, is having a box in your head and being able to twist and turn and stretch and break and unfold it in any way, in any lighting, in any scenario, and then being able to place whatever you see on your head on a blank canvas. So, yeah. All right. What we can do, obviously, what you can do is use references. Now, what's really important for poses and everything when it comes to anatomy and sketching, you want to fully understand what you're drawing. You have to really get how it works and what it would look like if you put it in a different position. So, like stuff like this, for example, this is really helpful when it comes to understanding anatomy and all that kind of stuff. Like, you have pretty much, you need to understand exactly when you're drawing anything in any pose, you need to understand what goes on beneath it as well. So take, for example, stuff like, hold on, let me see. This, really, really helpful. Like if you understand the way that works and how that looks, then you're already like really good to go. So let's say you want to like draw an arm or something, you can always use reference. But the one thing is about references, I tend to not use them that much, because oftentimes I have an image in my head that only I can see. Like if there's a pose that only I know in my head, I cannot use references for that. I will be looking for it for ages. So it's really nice about learning anatomy and knowing and understanding how it works and practicing it multiple times, is that you will be able to make anything you want at any time, in any position, in any lighting, because that's kind of, that also shortens the process a lot. Yes, drawing from references is pretty nice, and it's also pretty necessary at first, but after a while, if you want to make something original and cool and something that's never been done before, just understanding what you're drawing and then doing it without references is going to be like, it's going to come in so handy. Now, obviously, I'm not saying you shouldn't draw from it. Like, obviously, there's so many artists who use references for each of their drawings, but I tend not to, actually. Now, about sketching, when it comes to poses, you want to be quick with your movements. So no little, like, yeah, you can do this if you're like really just like drawing a line around your ID and you have to be like quick and you need to just throw something out there. But if you're just drawing poses, you want to be like pretty quick with it. So let's look at Pinterest for a few pose ideas. Let's see. Now I have a bunch of references in here. This, for example, this is really interesting to see how muscles work in different positions, especially from the back. Now, let's go for this right here. Now, in perspective, things are also a lot more tough in perspective, obviously. But like I said, once you practice it a lot, you will be able to see it in your head and pull a line around it. Now, actually, I'm just going to like freestyle it and see how, like, the way I do it in my head. So if I wanted to draw a pose, let's say I'll just draw something like this. You know, let's start with the head first, and then you know, the jaw, and then you got the ear right here. And like I said, you want to be really quick. So if you then add the shoulders, like this, and then the muscles. And this is like from a top perspective. So you're kind of looking at it like, you know, like that. And then you put your the feet right here. Now this person is like crouching. So you see how it's really like, you know, I'm just freestyling stuff and it still looks pretty decent. That's because I understand what I'm actually drawing, like understand what I am looking at, what I'm creating. So after a while, if you like really practice anatomy a lot, stuff like that will come to you naturally as well. And you really want to be like loose with every line, because after a while, if you have to do this more often and like do it a lot, then you will probably really like, if you really like stay on one line too long, you will definitely lose track of the overall image and focus too much on one single body part, and then it will look like out of proportion. So you want to avoid that. But what you also really want to avoid is not flipping your canvas. So if something looks off, if you flip your canvas, you will immediately see it as well. Okay, so there we got something like this. You know, he's like crouching down. His fingers are like that a little bit, you know. This. And see, you got like already one pretty decent looking pose. Now, we can also do, if you want to be like more dynamic, what really works is following the flow of a body, you know, following the flow of how something works. Like, let's say pose reference. In this pose reference, like that. You got stuff like that. You can really see with this image specifically, let's say, let's copy that and then throw it in here. What you can really see is how there's like a line to her body. So if you make a new layer, you can see it goes like this. It's like an arch. That is really like fun to keep in mind when you're drawing something. So let's say you start with the head. I always recommend starting with the head, because heads are like, they take a lot of nuisance. So if you do it last, you have like this chance of really like putting it like on a neck that's too long or too short, or making it too big or too small. So I really recommend like doing that first. You can see, and then you have like this. You see that the shoulder is here. You want to just like be really general with what you're doing. You go like that. And this. See how like that's supposed to be, that's pretty much how quick you want it to be. Just like really getting what the shapes are like. You see that this arm is there, and if you know your anatomy, like I said, you know that this is how long it's supposed to be. This is where it's supposed to be placed. It's like you're actually feeling the parts that you're drawing in your own body, because you know you have them yourself. You know you have an elbow, you know you have an arm, you know, you would kind of actually know what feels wrong and what feels right. So always keep in mind that if you are struggling with what something looks like, remember that you have it yourself. It's like literally on your body. So you can also obviously use yourself as reference. So yeah, remember that you're the one who owns an entire body. You don't always need someone else's references. You can just feel it yourself. And you got like simple stuff like that. See, it's pretty actually mesmerizing to do, actually. Like that. You forget like this. Yeah. So if you're sketching poses, obviously, at first, if you want to practice, use references for sure, because you need to understand. Reference studies are what's going to help you, obviously practice, because practice is doing things over and over and over. And unless if you only do one thing, if you only learn one thing and then never do anything else, obviously you're not going to improve. So you need reference studies at first, definitely. Now, okay, let's see. What else do we have? Now, okay, when it comes to poses for specific characters, what's really there are some things I subconsciously keep in mind. It really depends on the vibe or energy your character gives off. For example, to make someone look submissive or seductive, angling their face downwards and making the eyes look up at the camera works really well to convey their vibe. So let's say you want to make someone either submissive or seductive. Let's say you angle their face downwards, like that. So, this. You can do stuff like, let me just lower this opacity for a second and then make them. If you make their eyes look up at you, you can make them look really innocent, like really cutesy. This is a method I use a lot to make people look submissive or cute, or just, innocent in general. Making them look up at the camera with like really open eyes, really, I'm super innocent, I will never hurt you, stuff like that. this. And then on the other, then this is why you flip your camera, so you can avoid having really weird, really dysfunctional faces. Like that. So this would then make something look really innocent and cute, and you know, things like that. But then if you were to hold on, make these eyes more closed and angle and lower the eyebrows, you can make them more seductive. Now this method, I use that a lot for feminine characters, because it really helps, because feminine characters just tend to lower their face a lot if they want to have some like effect on someone. So that's what I use a lot for to pose my for female characters, depending on what emotion I want them to give. Obviously, you want to kind of avoid dead expressions, like at least make them convey some type of feeling. But generally, just this is kind of what seductive and stuff would look like on feminine energy. Now for males, obviously the ones I draw the most, what really works is angling their face upwards and then at an angle, slightly at an angle. Because men have pretty strong necks, and when they show it off, people tend to react to that in a certain way. And obviously it works because the audience likes it a lot. So then you also got to keep in mind the way the face will look at a different angle. Like that. You see how it's basically just like, I'm not using reference for this, it's just what goes on in my brain, and I'm like trying to be really quick, trying to pull a line around it. Just like it's like I can see the image on the paper already, and I just have to like draw it. And that comes with time. Like I said, it comes with time. You have to learn that, study that, practice a lot. So yeah. Then what I do for their expressions, which also is obviously really important, I use the same like half closed eyelid and then make them look at you like that. This. Also on my YouTube, I have a video on how to draw like sexy faces. So if that's something you want to like learn, it's well, obviously I you can't teach that, but if there's some tips in there. So if you want to check that out, it's on there. So yeah, basically, this is something that really makes masculine features, especially like because I have this Adam's apple and all that. And making them smirk obviously also works wonders. Now for shading, I tend to use a different kind of brush because it's quite annoying if you're like drawing with pencils that is always like super dark. So then I just like use something that doesn't have a really harsh opacity and fill in the top lip and the bottom lip, and see, you got a seductive face. So both of these really work well if you want to convey certain type of, feeling. And that's definitely something to keep in mind. So if you're drawing a original character, think of what vibe they have, and then try to think of what you believe is the hottest or the cutest or the saddest pose someone could be in. Maybe take a picture of yourself in that position if you want to, and then try to convey as much feeling as possible. Now, we can also make a little sketch just for fun that I can show you how I go from just a blank piece of paper to a fun little sketch. Let me just twist it around. Now, the person I will be drawing is actually an original character from Worthwalkers, my webtoon. So, let's see. Oh yeah, also, while you're practicing, remember that my stuff also used to look horrible. Like, this is what it looked like. It was just really just like super simple stuff. A lot of it didn't even like make sense. I used to do this like when I was in school a lot, just like not paying attention to classes and mostly drawing. I guess at that point I should have known that I was not gonna be anything my major was telling me I was going to be. So yeah, remember it takes a lot of practice. So yeah, let's see. Also for dynamic poses, use perspective a lot. You're gonna want to like have something that's blurred in the camera and then like something in the back, and then have this really smooth movement that goes like the things with the when there's like a line and then you go like this and this and this and this and this and then you get like perspective points. Yeah, use that a lot. You need to use like a lot of leading lines, like the golden ratio or whatever that was. It will help you. Remember, please. Also using motion blur for something can really help with dynamic poses, like this thing. People use that a lot in anime as well. So yeah, just something to remember. All right, but now let's think of the character I will be drawing. Her name is Victoria. She's one of my favorite characters, and she is kind of sassy. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this angle, make her look upwards a little bit. Think of like she's rolling her eyes, maybe something like that. She has a really short face, so I won't be like elongating it. This. And then I want to have her eat a lollipop. Let's say that. Now what we can do, have a different layer for the lollipop, like this. Then have her hold it. that. Be sure to use different layers because if you draw something on the same layer and it's the wrong one, you're gonna hate yourself. So be careful with that. Yep. This really, like I said, I'm just like pulling lines around my imagination. Now, obviously, sometimes your imagination will be wrong. You'll see that some parts are like that just means that your brain hasn't fully registered what that looks like yet, or it has forgotten. So at that point, it's best to just like practice on the part that keeps being messed up over and over, like 50 times. If your arm looks weird, just keep drawing arms in different positions, like 20 times or something, until it stops looking weird, of course. Yeah, with that, okay. This. Now, obviously, don't be too scared to adjust things. Also, don't be scared to, even if you have like a really nice anatomy going on, don't be scared to cover it up. You want to work towards your final image as fast as possible and as accurately as possible. So, see. This. Oh, she does have boobies, so let's not forget those. Also, that muscle tends to bundle up around this area, so don't forget that either. That looks pretty okay, but let's make it a little more accurate. And also don't forget that if the anatomy doesn't look 100% perfect, you can always cover it up with clothes if like your character wears them. So that's why I love drawing characters with big clothing items a lot, because you can like really be super like fast and for someone who wears like a big jacket, for example, you just draw their body and then you just make the huge ass jacket and no one will know that you actually don't know how to draw their body. It's really fun. Yeah. Let's see. This, for example. Oh, let me get. Something like that. This. Then we make it so that it actually works. Grab that. Put her in the right place. It's also always nice to keep the composition in mind. Let me check. Yeah, hold on. Also, just take this for a second. My sketches always look really messy at first, and then then afterwards they start looking better. Yeah. Don't be afraid to be messy. Like the whole point of being like of making something that looks like it does in your head is to be really quick and messy. Because that is actually, before you draw something, you always want it to be almost 4K quality in your head, depending on how detailed you want it to be. But whatever it is you want to draw, make sure that you can see it very clearly in your head. Because if you don't, then you're just going to be like purely drawing on knowledge and experience of what drawing is supposed to be like. And if you're not seeing an image in your head while you're drawing, then you're probably going to mess it up. And that's also what a lot of people use references for, because then they won't mess it up, obviously, because they have the image right there in front of them. But yeah, if you're not using reference, make sure to always have the image in your head in 4K, 8K even. This. See, then you really, also what's really interesting is if you draw a face to like be really cartoony with the expressions, like really the way Disney does it, like really just simplify it like that, and then add detail to it, you know, like lashes and whatever, and like different eye colors, because then you will still have the feeling of the expression and the pose, but it will look better because you add detail. So yeah, that's really something nice. Let's open her mouth a little. That. Then add a little bit of shading. I'm not going to be shading too much because obviously you do not have time for that. Yeah. Then don't forget that characters have teeth. So this, for example. There. I have a nice little base. Then you can change some of the anatomy, make it look more realistic. That, or either make it look more feminine. Just remember, you can be really loose with literally everything you do. And then we can draw all the extras. You want to have your base first before you draw anything else. Especially if you're if you want to have this natural feel. Because if the sketch looks bad, then everything else will look bad as well. Always remember to flip your canvas every once in a while, because you do not want those proportions to be messed up. Alrighty, now let's draw her hair. This. Oh, she has really long hair. I forgot about that. Damn, I really want to spoil what happens to her in the story, but I won't. Y'all are gonna have to wait. We're all gonna have to wait. Oh, it's gonna take so long before it's done. That's so sad, but oh well. Yeah, that's also really nice. Just remember, you can always cover stuff up. Like, just the parts that will be visible have to look good, and then the rest can just be like hidden away. No one has to know. They're gonna know. How would they know? Not. Like, okay. That was also a bit fun. You know, see, there we got a really nice sketch. And at this point, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can add a lot more detail, a lot less detail. Just be really, really satisfied with your sketch first. That's the one thing I'm letting you know right now. Be satisfied, because if you're not yet satisfied with your sketch and you start doing all the rest of the things, then you're going to regret even starting on it. So yeah, you got that, maybe some shading. Can be a little fun. This, I always start in grayscale because back when I didn't do that, I sucked at drawing. So for my own sake, I do grayscale. This. Stuff like that. You can also always adjust stuff. Definitely don't be afraid to delete stuff to change things up. There you have a nice little sketch. Clean it up a little. That. Yeah. So yes. And then after a while, this will just be super, super easy. Do not worry about anything, because for everything, there's a first time. And there we got sassy little Victoria. Well, obviously her design is not this simple, but I guess you're gonna have to see that when the webtoon drops, when Earthwalker drops. Yeah. Let's merge some of this. Yeah. Alrighty. I have a nice little sketch. There. There you go. See? And if you really like have the anatomy and the image in your head, just what you need to do is study anatomy. Like I said, Proko is really good for that. He has this entire playlist of anatomy here on YouTube. Yeah, once you have that down, your reference studies and your practice, this will be easy as hell. Literally in just 1 year. I can promise you in 1 year you can do this. Easy, easy. If you have never drawn before and you draw every single day, 1 year. That's all it takes. But yeah. Now let's see the time. I think the time is going to be up right now. Is it time for the Q&A?
Well, thank you so much, Sophia, for this great presentation. Everybody's
Thank you.
staring at your character, and there are so many questions, but also some great comments. Before we start with the questions, we ask from which part of the world were you watching us live? So I'm just gonna say hi, for example, to Emily from US, Kimberly from Iowa, Sarah from Iran, who else? Francisca, Germany, Tamara, Chile, Georgie from UK, JH from Indonesia, Emma, Denmark, Nena, Macedonia, Alejandra, Mexico, Victoria, Poland, etc., etc. Thank you so much, guys. So let's start with some questions.
Okay, let's go.
Well, the first one is related to your webtoon. If you could talk a little bit more about it, if it's possible, of course.
It is possible. I obviously don't want to spoil too much, but the webtoon is going to be about it's kind of virtual reality, but not really. You're gonna have to see about it. But it's basically, the main character needs money for reasons that I will not spoil yet, and he will be joining a game to win it, to win the money. And in that game happens there's so much going on. You're gonna like it's kind of sci-fi, cyberpunk-ish action, but also drama and a tiny bit of romance that I will not spoil yet. But it's gonna be like really action-packed, a lot of plot twists, a lot of no, not plot twists, but like a lot of things will happen. Don't worry, you'll love it. I swear.
Awesome, awesome. Well, here's a nice message from Jonathan Ellie Fortier, watching from Montreal, Canada. Awesome stream. I really like the explanation and idea descriptions. So thank you. Another question from Maria Elena Beraki. What's the best dynamic pose in your opinion?
The best dynamic pose, let me go through some of my older Photoshop files. I have a lot of dynamic poses, obviously, but I love doing stuff like this. This type of pose where the hand is like in the face, in the camera, blurred in the camera, and then, this is obviously really dynamic. He's running. But yeah, what's really good for any dynamic pose is putting a hand in the camera, just like this. This is not even dynamic, but it works. It's having something in the camera, and then using motion blur a lot. You see how it's like kind of go shit. That's not the one. It's like really blurred out in a certain direction. You can feel like he's moving forward. That's kind of what you want. Something in the camera and a bit of motion blur. That really works for dynamic poses. Yeah.
Here's another question from Brianna. Brianna Harrison, how many hours a week would you recommend practicing poses? What about expression? Also, I love the TT meme reference.
Well, let me see. When it comes to how many hours a week was the question? Per week, right?
Yep.
I would say I wouldn't like go for hours per se, but mostly for just doing it until it looks right. Because every single day, if you practice every single day, at first you'll see that something looks off. Then you will look at references, you'll try to draw it, try to understand the shapes, and then it will probably still look off, but at some point, at some time during the day, you'll see like, oh, this actually looks good. And until you get that like, that feeling, I wouldn't stop. Just keep going until you're like, oh damn, actually, this is nice. And even if it doesn't look good and you're just tired, then be like, this was good practice, this was good training. Every single failed piece you make, every single failed piece of art is just practice to get better. Always keep that in mind.
Here's another question from Jessa. Can you recommend using the 3D models that Clip Studio provides for practice? Do you ever use them?
Yeah, those, you can definitely try those out. I have never used them before, so I don't even know where they are. But there it is. Okay. Yeah, they're really good for practicing, but I would also not recommend following it to a T. Like, I would not recommend making every single line exactly the way it looks. It's more of just like a perspective reference, trying to see like where everything goes, but definitely don't like follow every line very strictly, because it obviously does look a little like a puppet. Like if you go there and you see like this, it obviously doesn't look like very supernatural, because if in this position, for example, the shoulders will be more upwards, the head will lay more into the back, like it isn't too natural. So I don't recommend like following it exactly, but if you're like trying to figure out the lighting or or just putting it in a different environment, then it's definitely coming in really handy. Yeah.
Here's another question from Caleb Cooper. When made you start drawing? Thank you for your time today. I learned a lot.
When did I start drawing?
What made you start drawing?
What made me start drawing? Well, actually, that's the thing. I have no idea. It's just what my heart like urges me to do. Ever since I like could hold a pencil, I've been wanting to draw. And then when I saw, Ross Strauss and other digital artists, I wanted to do digital as well. And somehow, I don't know, I just stuck by it. It's just something that makes me feel so relieved and happy, and just being able, that's also one of the big reasons, being able to put down images that no one else in the entire world can possibly see, and then showing it to other people, like having something in your head and being able to actually show exactly what it looks like to others, that's like insane to me.
And here's another question. What are your favorite Studio Paint tools or features? Somebody pointed out, like Sasha, what keyboard command are you doing to flip the canvas?
Well, I use, well, for the tools, my favorite tools are obviously just a brush, but something I really love, especially for when you start coloring, is the correction layer. Everything that's in here, you can do so many things with that. Like you're gonna love this after a while, after you start with color and stuff as well. That's like one of my favorite things. Also, of course, the animation feature and the webtoon feature, the webcomic feature, my favorites. But when it comes to keyboard shortcuts, I actually edit them all myself. I didn't use the standard ones. I used the ones that just work the best for me. But for example, I forgot how to do that actually. Wait. Damn, I have to like actually look that up to like go to the shortcut panels. But yeah, you can edit them yourself. You just have to Google how that works. And I use, for flipping my canvas, I use Control H. So I don't have any shortcuts on my. I do have shortcuts on my tablet, but I don't use them. So I just use my keyboard and then I use Control H. That's just like flip horizontal, I think. Yeah.
Here's another interesting question from Scarlett Ross. How can you avoid the so-called same face syndrome across pieces?
Oh, now that's an interesting one. You see, I actually, you can avoid that obviously by practicing different kind of shapes and different kind of faces in general. For example, if you obviously you don't have to draw ugly faces to have a different kind of face. Like, it doesn't mean if you have like one same face syndrome that all the other ones are ugly. Obviously not. So you have to like practice on different kind of faces that you find alluring, and make sure to like have a little variety in your practice process. So if you want to draw, for example, like African American features, you'll have like bigger lips, wider noses and stuff like that. Or if you want to draw more masculine features, you have like, you have to really be varying. Also with eyes, for example, if you have like really slanted eyes or really like downturned eyes, you can always practice both. But if you understand the core of what it actually, how eyes work, then you can always like throw some different. It's the same as like a character, and then putting a different hairstyle on them. That's the same for their faces. Having an eye and putting a different style on the eye. Just be really sure to like practice different types. You can avoid it easily. But even if you don't, I generally don't like mind same face syndrome, because if it's like a cartoon or something, The Simpsons, who really complains? Like, why is it always realistic faces that people complain about same face syndrome? So just do your thing, man.
hmm Here's another interesting question. What's the role of hair in a dynamic pose?
Oh, dynamic pose. That's actually really interesting. For hair, it can genuinely be anything. Just make sure it follows the flow of physics. Like, if someone is moving forwards and they're going like this, then their hair is going to be like this as well. If they're going down, then their hair is going to be like this as well. It's just follow the flow of their movement. If they go like this, then their hair will follow like that as well. But remember that it comes after the body. So even if a body is going like that, then the hair will be, it will be in the same form, but it comes later. So if someone goes like this, then it will go like that as well. Just remember physics. Like, just keep in mind, like, if something looks weird, then it's probably weird. So, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, our time is limited, but let's close with one last question or suggestion. If you can let us know, for anyone struggling with anatomy and poses, one last tip or comment for them.
Struggling with anatomy and poses, like I said, genuinely just practice so much. And also, like, especially with Pinterest, really understand the actual, like, anatomy of a body, you know, like the muscles and everything. And then keep practicing exactly like the way bones work and stuff, or anything like that. Just make sure to genuinely like keep it in mind that a body actually looks like this, that it actually is made up of so many different muscles, and the way they look differently when you pose them differently. Just keep that in mind. That's the only thing I can tell you, and keep like practicing it, because more than that I really can't say. That comes with time, but it will also be really fast if you do it as much as possible. So don't worry about it taking like forever to learn that. Not if you really do it every day, like I promise it won't be that hard after a while. Just stay motivated, stay passionate, because it will work. Don't worry.
So with those wise words, we're finishing today's presentation. Thank you so much, Sophia.
Thank you.
Thank all of you who joined us today. But before we go, we're just going to share one last bit of information. As many of you asked, yes, this webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channels, Clip Studio Paint channel, and Graphicsly. So subscribe to receive a notification once the webinar is available to watch. Also, if you want to learn more about Clip Studio Paint, learn more at clipstudio.net/n and graphicsly.com. And also to follow Sophia's projects and everything that she's doing. Follow her on her social as Sophia_art on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. So with that, thank you once again so much, Sophia, for this amazing presentation.
Thank you as well.
Thank all of you who watch us live and who are watching the recording. So please stay tuned on our social for our next event. So we hope to see you next time. Bye bye.